Check out FlipsideGaming.com for all your gaming needs. Use the promo code HEROES to save 10% on all orders over $10 and support the channel at the same time. Hey there, this is John from Heroes and Legends, and welcome to another edition of the Magic the Gathering Market Watch, where we're going to look at all things Standard, Modern, Legacy, and some other notable cards, including a few silver bordered cards at the end of the video. But the big story this week appears to be Modern. I think that's partially due to the fact that Iconic Masters has made some of the staples a little more affordable, leading more players with the feeling that they can afford now to buy into certain decks that they were putting off for a while. Also, too, there's a few interesting decks out there that have received some attention recently due to some good results, or in some cases, maybe a little bit of excitement as to what they potentially could do down the road in the meta. So we'll take a look at all those cards. Just a real quick word of warning, though. In this video, we're not going to look at Iconic Masters singles, or unstable singles either, because we did a video with all of those yesterday. So if you missed it, I'll link it at the end of this one. Now, quickly before we get started, if you check out the description below, you'll find a few ways to support us, one of which is our Patreon page. You'll also find some product links for Amazon as well as Flipside Gaming. Purchases there help us out as well. It's always appreciated. So thank you very much to everybody. And with that being said, let's get into it. Start off with Standard. The cards that lost value this week. Now, Standards are very, very slow, as you can imagine right now. There might be a little bit of speculation already based on some of the previews we've seen from rivals, but for the most part, everyone's waiting till they see a few more cards at the very least. A lot of people will wait until they actually see some Standard play when the new set comes out. Some will wait till the Pro Tour happens, so we'll have to kind of wait and see, but for the most part right now, things are going to be really, really slow. Number 5, Jace Cunning Castaway, down 77 cents to 512, so not a lot to say about Jace. I haven't said in the past. Unfortunately, this card never really found a foothold. I do think it can be good if it can get rolling, but this current meta, I think it's just a little too fast and has outpaced it. Could that change in the future? Maybe. Will it change with rivals? Maybe, but I don't know if it's going to change all that much, quite honestly. I think we're going to get more pieces to decks that already exist, but we'll have to kind of wait and see, of course, when that set's revealed. But maybe down the road at some point. Right now, Jace is still a very cheap pickup. Number 4, Fetid Pools, is down 93 cents to 666. And this is a key part of mana bases. So why is it going down so drastically this week? Well, a lot of the players have their mana bases at this point. When the new meta came in and everything kind of shifted a few months back, there was a mad scramble for these cards, especially when you saw some greedy mana bases like you saw in some of the energy decks. But now with players developing those bases to the point where they're probably good for a while, you're going to see these start to decline a little bit. Number 3, Torrential Gearhulk, down 98 cents to 1404. Still a good standard card, still sees plenty of play, sometimes in control builds or energy builds. But the card did take a little bit of a hit when a Braid was printed. So that was really the point where this card went from being like a $25 to sometimes even $30 card down to like a $14 card. So yes, it still sees play. It's going to continue to see play as long as it's legal, I have no doubt, but maybe not in the quantities that it once did. All right, number 2 is Vraska Relic Seeker, down $1.55 to $15.75. She's a great card. That's not changing. Now, you're seeing a little bit less of her out there because Abzan token decks are sort of drying up a little bit, but she's still awesome in energy decks and probably seeing more play than ever, quite honestly, in the energy decks. Now, with that being said, she's not a 4-of in these decks. So you do have to adjust your expectations a little bit for the fact that a lot of Ixalan has been open, a lot has been printed. Even though she's a mythic, there's plenty of copies of this card available out there. And because of that, combined with the fact that she's not seeing an abundance of play when it comes to quantities in particular decks, then yeah, when you start looking at the $12 to $15 price point for this card, that seems more than fair. Number 1, the Scarab God, down again, $1.84 to $36.34. So this card, extremely popular, is awesome. Not going to change anything as we move into the new meta, I don't think. Also, great commander card. Why is this slipping every week? Well, the price point is just too high for the supply out there, is the bottom line. Demand for this card is high. I will give it that. It's an awesome card, and that's not changing. But there are a lot of copies out there. They print a lot of Magic nowadays. It's not like it was 8-9 years ago where cards could really maintain and hold value, even out of Standard into the next formats. It's just not like that anymore. There's a lot of copies of all these cards, even the Mythics out there, even for sets that don't perform as well. So the Scarab God continues to slip, and this will continue to happen. $36.34 is still a very high price point for this card just due to the supply that's out there. All right, let's move on to the top 5 standard cards that have gained value this week. And you're going to notice some very, very conservative gains again this week. Number 5, Chefette Dunes of 4 cents to 46 cents. Okay, so we're talking about 4 cents here. This probably could have been almost any card, but it is important to point out that the blue-white cycling deck, which runs sometimes like a copy of this in the main, it did do pretty well in Worlds, so maybe that garnered a little attention, but really 4 cents, maybe I'm reading a little bit too much into it. Number 4, Metallurgic Summonings of 4 cents to $1.29. Okay. Everyone's been trying to break this card ever since it was previewed. No one's quite gotten there yet. It feels like this card should have a ton of potential. Now, we saw a preview card for Rivals this past week, Brass's Bounty, which is a way to create a lot of treasure, potentially. So, again, that's probably turning some people's attention back to this card. And only 4 cents, though. Maybe I'm reading a little too much into it, but it is at least an indication, if nothing else. Number 3, Forsaken Sanctuary, of 5 cents to 33 cents. This one is just an anomaly. This is not the type of card you want to play typically in constructed formats that enters the battlefield tab. There's better options out there. So again, once you're talking about increases of 4 or 5 cents, sometimes these cards can almost be anything. Number 2, Awakening Sun's Avatar, up 6 cents to $1.59. Now, this is a cool commander card already, but I think people are already thinking about this card potentially for commander decks after Rivals comes out. We've already seen there's going to be 2 legendary dinosaurs. It appears that's going to be a cycle. And there's even speculation that maybe there'll be a 5-color dinosaur. So with that going on right now, definitely people are thinking it might be a good time to pick this card up while it's still very, very cheap. Now again, only a 6-cent increase, so this is more of an indicator than anything else. Number 1, As Foretold, up 39 cents to $4.14. Well, this seems like as good a time as any to start talking about Modern, because that's why this card's going up. So there's an As Foretold Living End deck that actually is not new. It's been around for a little while. I remember Emma Handy, I believe, did an article on it last summer for Star City Games. And the deck's been kind of bebopping around, but this past week it's gotten some attention, and it has put up some decent results on Magic Online. That's part of it. But also Saffron Olive, MTG Goldfish, played this on Twitch and kind of showed the deck a little bit. So that's always going to help just get some more attention on it. The big question is, does this translate to true results for the deck? Time will tell. Now, sometimes we just get these flash-in-the-pan hot decks for a month. I always kind of kid around. There's a hot deck of the month for Modern. This is definitely our December deck. But some of the decks do feel like they have more staying power than others. I mean, the November hot deck of the month was Humans Tribal, and as we'll see in a few moments, there's still people buying into that for sure. And the deck is showing up in a lot of places. Alright, let's move into Modern. With the top 5 Modern cards that have lost value this week, as you can imagine, some of these are being driven by the recent Iconic Masters releases and reprints. Number 5, Horizon Canopy, down $1.36 to $64.01. The original Future Sight version looks very different from the new version. Some players are always going to want this original version. It just looks very unique. And because of that, it will hold value. It's not going to go down to meet the price of the Iconic Masters version or anything like that, but it's still going to slip, and it's going to slip some more, no doubt. Number 4, Ancestral Vision. This is the Time Spiral version, down $1.39 to $27.45. Kind of the same story here. We got this card now in Iconic Masters. It does have new art, although I really like the original art because of the callback to Ancestral Recall. But I don't hate the John Avon art. It looks amazing, too, on the new card, so I do like them both. With that being said, I'm assuming you're not here for my art opinions on these cards. The Ancestral Vision playability has gone down slightly a little bit when you look at percentage of field, but at the same time, it's still going to be a Modern control staple that's not going to change, so don't let that scare you away from this card. Beyond that, though, this card is also in that As Foretold deck we just talked about. That could help it stabilize maybe a little quicker than some of the other cards if that deck starts to catch on. But again, with all the extra copies entering the marketplace with Iconic Masters, this will slide some more. Number 3, Glimpse the Unthinkable, down $2.22 to $22.29. Very substantial loss here. Again, another card that we just saw reprinted at Rare in Iconic Masters. Now, the thing about Glimpse is this desperately needed a reprint. It was way overpriced just due to the fact that a lot of casual players love the idea of mill or alternate win conditions in general. And this was a very, very popular card for a very long time. Finally, we're getting copies out there. It's starting to meet that demand, and the original is going down, and will continue to go down a little more. Now, one thing I do want to point out, though, the Esper Mill deck in Modern, another deck that's kind of been living on the fringe for a long time, it actually put up a not horrible result at a Modern Classic, Star City Games Classic, a few weeks back. I think it came in like 14th place or something like that. that could be enough for some players that love Mill to want to jump in and just go ahead and buy into that deck. So another card that will go down more, but just watch it in the future. Number 2, Liliana of the Veil, down $3.24 to $85. This is the Innistrad version. She's been kind of up and down, but she sits around the $85, $90 mark pretty consistently at this point. I don't think that's going to really change that much. She sees tons of play in Legacy, Modern, just kind of all over the place. Anywhere from like 4-color Loam to Death Shadow decks to your regular Jund decks. Like, she's everywhere. And number 1, believe it or not, yet again, Tarmogoyf, Modern Masters 2017 version this week, down at $1.63 to $66.99, with the Future Sight version going down $6.82 to $95, finally under $100. That's actually pretty awesome. So the card, of course, still sees play. It sees less play than it did, percentage of field-wise, and I think all these reprints are finally starting to catch up with it. That Modern Masters 2017 one feels like the tipping point, and that's actually a great pickup. If you're looking for a Goyf, I mean, it will probably come down a little more, but still, if you spend like $55, $60 on a Goyf, the Modern Masters 2017 one's a nice option. And if you've been waiting for that original one, well, it's down quite a bit this week. I do think these will slip some more, but watch them closely, because it's not like Tarmogoyf is not seeing play. The card still sees play in Abzan, Jund, a lot of places. Alright, let's move on to the cards that have gained value this week. Number 5, oh, you guessed it, it's Tarmogoyf from Modern Masters. Up $1.28 to $79.95. So, okay, 2 are going down. This one's going up. The Modern Masters 2015 one is staying relatively stable this week. But this is an interesting story. I mean, now, I don't think this will last, right? Because this is well above, say, the Masters 17 one, which means, yeah, we'll see a snapback next week. But it just goes to show you just how awkward the market can be at times. And just a lot of times it comes down to quantities of cards available that given week. Number 4, Noble Hierarch from Conflux, up $2.10 to $58.20. Okay, so the Humans deck hit pretty big a few weeks ago. A lot of people saw that deck, wanted to buy into it. It's been very popular over the last few weeks. I was a little suspicious of the fact that Noble Hierarch wasn't moving. Now, part of the reason I think was the announcement that we're getting the Noble Hierarch promo at RPTQs. However, you got to remember that those are still pretty limited, the amount that actually go out to RPTQ players. It's not like a Grand Prix, for example. If they made a Grand Prix promo of this, yes, I would expect the price to drop quite a bit. So I think people were a little hesitant to buy into this card until they saw what was going to happen. When they realized the card wasn't going down that much, I think now they're a little more comfortable buying into it if they don't have it for Humans. So yes, this card is great in a lot of decks. It's not just Humans, but Humans right now is driving a lot of these price points for cards like this. Number 3, Ruined Halo, up $2.11 to $23.93. So we've seen in recent weeks that the control decks of Modern have been pretty hot too. We saw Celestial Colonnade a few times on our list. So this week is Ruined Halo. And this card especially can be volatile because it is a rare from Shadowmoor, which had a notorious slow print run, considering it's a Modern era Magic set. Number 2, Cavern of Souls, 2 versions here. Modern Masters 2017 is up $1.90 to $59.50, with Avacyn Restored up $2.15 to $60.12. So these two pretty much stay in lockstep. That hasn't changed. Now, again, another card that's great in a lot of places, but what's driving this right now today? It's Humans. People still buying into the Humans deck, picking up some of the high-ticket cards this week. Number 1, Mesmeric Orb. And this is up $7.34 to $21.49. This is pretty significant. Now, this is part of that Esper Mill deck that I mentioned earlier, and it could simply be that as Glimpse the Unthinkable has come down now, some players are just like, well, you know what, now I can afford to buy into Esper Mill, and it doesn't hurt again that it did a pretty decent result a few weeks back. So, all that added up, no surprise, this card's actually having a pretty nice week. I would expect some snapback over the coming weeks, though. Alright, let's move into the world of Legacy, or as I like to call it, the world of buyouts. So, buyouts slowing down a little bit. You're not seeing as much going on right now. The attention is definitely on Modern this week and probably the last couple weeks. So let's see what's going on with number 5. Badlands from Unlimited, down $25 to $224.95. I mentioned this last week. It's a good sign when you see dual lands showing up on these lists because it means things are stabilizing. You're not seeing as many crazy buyouts. A lot of times people ask me, well, you talk about legacy cards, but I don't see a lot of legacy playable cards there other than dual lands. Well, the answer to that is simply nobody seems to care about the actual legacy playable cards most of the time. What ends up happening is the cards that are really moving are the ones that are being manipulated through buyouts and other sort of inflation or market situations. Now, that is different weeks. Like if we have a banning or unbanning in Legacy, you will see some cards actually impacted by the meta. But for the most part, unfortunately, the Legacy portion of our show rarely looks at Legacy staples. So it's nice when you do see the dual land show up. It means things are stabilizing. Number 4, Eureka, down 28.84 to 332.50. This card had a weird week. It was actually up pretty high as of yesterday, and then it went down a lot. Don't know if it was just a quick buyout or something like that, or it could just be weird market stabilization. Number 3, City of Brass, down 31.81 to $200.59. This, of course, is the Arabian Nights version. I always like to point out this is not a reserve list card. You can find much cheaper versions of this card if you just want to play with it. But recently, this was a target of a buyout. It's been coming down, although I could see it sitting around the 150 to 200 mark now for a while. Number 2, Drop of Honey, down 33.99 to 420.50. Still a good Legacy card and a playable one. You can see this out of sideboards for lands decks, usually 2 ofs. But this card was undervalued for a long time, and it spiked really aggressively. It looked almost like a buyout, but at the same time, I don't think it's going to go down all too much more. It will creep down a little more, though. Number 1, Diamond Valley, down 91.50 to 394.50. Now, this is another card that was a target of a buyout. You're definitely seeing the repercussions of that now as these are reintroduced into the market. All right, let's move on to the cards that have gained value this week in the world of Legacy. Number 5, we got another dual land. It's Plateau from Unlimited at 14.55 to 183.30. Number 4, Living Plain, up 21.60 to 169.10. I always say about this card when it comes up that it's still a good purchase because $150 for this card, long term, this card will go up. So if you don't have a copy, I love Enchant Worlds. There's actually a number of Enchant Worlds we're going to talk about on our list today. But if you don't have a copy of this and you can find one at a reasonable price, I'd pick it up. Number 3, another Enchant World, The Abyss, up 28.50 to 435. Another fantastic card, and this felt like gradual growth to me. It doesn't feel like market manipulation. I mean, it could be very subtle, but it feels like this card is actually just growing in value legitimately. Definitely one to watch in the future. Number 2, Jazam Jin, up $75 this week to $875. This card has just exploded. I mean, it sat around the $500 mark for the longest time. So the big question is, what's happening? Is this a buyout? It could be. I mean, if somebody had maybe, I don't know, $2,000 on credit, they could probably buy 4 of these and really manipulate the market. And if that's the case, maybe that's what's going on here, but we're not seeing the cards come back to the market, at least not very quickly, which isn't normal, especially with a card with this price point. Usually if someone does a buyout this expensive, they put it on credit and they have about a month to start to sell them back so they don't have to pay the interest. And we're not really seeing that with this card, unless it happens maybe next week. I don't know. So I do think some of this is legitimate growth. It could simply be that this card is just very iconic, and as there's been more attention on Arabian Nights, some of the collectors or players just decided, you know what, $500, $600, even $700, I'm just going to bite the bullet and buy this thing before it gets worse. And yeah, it is definitely getting worse. Number 1, the Tabernacle of Pendrell Val, up $135.32 this week to $1,620. Another card that sat around $1,200 for like the longest time, but recently has shown some actual growth. All right, let's talk about a few notable cards. These were just some random things that I want to point out to you because I thought they were interesting, starting with a couple silver bordered cards. The first one is Season's Beatings. This is up $1.39 to $38.99. Now, first off, I usually don't like to talk about promos and or foils, and this is both. And the reason for that is because Crystal Commerce data can be very skewed when it comes to pricing of these cards because there's not typically a lot of sales points and a lot of data points on these cards because they can be hard to find and hard to sell sometimes. So when you see a card that has huge spikes, or sometimes new foils are a good example of that, you want to be careful because it could just mean that somebody is listing them at really outlandish prices, or one person made a purchase that maybe wasn't a smart purchase, and that's going to influence the data quite a bit. So you always want to be careful when it comes to stuff like this. So I shy away from these typically for the most part, but this one felt stable enough, and I just wanted to point it out. If you're not familiar with the holiday cards, these are cards basically given out from Wizards to their business partners as a Christmas card. So they've been doing this for a number of years. This one's from 2009. And even though they don't get sold to the public or anything like that, they're pretty affordable generally on the secondary market. Like, they're going to run you a little bit, some of them, but for the most part, they're all under $100. So Yeah, if you really wanted one for a casual play or something, they're still attainable. But with all the hype around silver bordered right now, this one's going up a little bit. And next is Timmy Power Gamer, up $3.45 to $5. Percentage-wise, a significant increase. We saw Johnny last week. Timmy's getting the bump this week. All right, a couple other older cards I want to point out too. Gravity Spear up $9.16 to $49.11 from Legends. This is a card I've always felt is undervalued. Takes a nice little tick up this week. Is this an indication of a buyout starting? I don't know. We'll have to watch it. But this is a card, if you can find it at a decent price, I'd pick up a copy. Another Enchant World. And finally, Gwendolyn is back. She's up $9.09 to $81.59. Not a huge increase here, but whenever these gold Legends cards from Legends go up, I like to kind of point those out to you because they usually don't ever come back down. So this is another one that's going up a little bit this week. I mean, you could see some snapback. Maybe this again is the beginning of another buyout for this card. But if you're in the market for picking up any of these gold cards from Legends, I would think about it sooner than later. All right, with that being said, that's the Market Watch for this week. As always, hey, thanks for watching. Please remember to like, subscribe. Have a great day. Hey, thanks for watching. This video is made possible by the generous support of viewers like you on Patreon. Check out the description below for links to our Patreon page as well as our Amazon affiliate store, where a small percentage of all sales will also help support the channel. Finally, if you haven't had a chance yet to subscribe, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any new videos on Heroes and Legends. Talk to you again soon, and have a great day.